So the board that you co-chair has said that it thinks that Facebook is avoiding its responsibilities. Why do you go so far? Why do you say that?
Well, first of all, we are deciding to uphold Facebook's decision to remove Mr. Trump from the platforms. We thought that was a right decision. Looking at the post from the 6th and 7th of January, we felt that was a right decision. And we looked at it from Facebook's own community standards and the human rights laws that they want to abide by. But we also said very clearly that it wasn't right that Facebook invented a new sanction for this particular user, because Facebook has standards, they have rules, and they have to follow those rules for everyone. So they can't just invent an indefinite ban which doesn't exist in their own rules, and they can't just invent new rules as they go along. So that was basically why we're saying to Facebook, go back, look at this, look at all our recommendations, and within 6 months, look at this case again.
Do you think Facebook is moving quickly enough on this then, Helle? I mean, clearly this is a specific case that you were talking about here, but people have called for a long time for Facebook to apply its rules consistently, to make those rules clear, to have consistent application and to consider the implications of what it does on the political realm. Do you think Facebook is moving generally quickly enough to satisfy all these criticisms?
I actually think that the Oversight Board is pushing Facebook in the right direction. And for example, this decision that we took yesterday will push Facebook to not again invent a sanction that doesn't exist in their own rules. It is very clear that Facebook actually took a good decision those January days, but they then invented this sanction that doesn't exist. And I think with the ruling that we have made here, they will not do that again. And what we have advised Facebook to do is to look at all our recommendations. They will have to answer all our recommendations within 30 days and put them into place, and on that basis, decide again. This doesn't mean there's an automatic way back for Mr. Trump, but it does mean that Facebook has to assess Mr. Trump's account again, and the likeliness that this will occur again, harm will occur again. And on that basis, they have to decide on a sanction that is actually within their own rules.
And who should make all these decisions, Helle? Because Facebook might think that's partly your role as the Oversight Board. The Oversight Board clearly kicks this back to Facebook and says you need to do better. Facebook themselves have made no secret of the fact that Mark Zuckerberg has a lot of sway when it comes to weighing up what should and shouldn't be on the platform, certainly in this particular case. So are there question marks about who actually makes these decisions?
I don't think there is. I mean, the Oversight Board was never created to lift responsibility of Facebook. And that is basically what we are saying here. Yes, we will look at the actual act of removing Mr. Trump from the platform. That was fine. We looked at that very thoroughly, and we came up with a decision. But we will not lift responsibility on sanctions from Facebook, and that's why we are pushing it back. But I also think that we've already proved with this decision, but also the ones before this, why it is so important to have the Oversight Board, because we are no longer in the situation that it is ultimately Facebook deciding on their own content. They have asked us to do it. And before, it was ultimately Mark Zuckerberg deciding what could stay up and what got removed. Now we have the Oversight Board. We are independent. We don't take instructions from anyone. We can say and do what we want, and we will follow up on both our decisions and our recommendations. So I think with this decision, we are really proving why it is important to have an Oversight Board. And I think Facebook will never again just invent a new rule as they go along.
Do you think we're getting closer to a time where action is going to be taken by lawmakers in Washington, Helle, to try and limit the protections that Facebook and other social media platforms have under Section 230? This is something that, of course, Facebook has clung to, just as many social media outlets have. Do you think we'll see further regulation of these platforms?
Well, I don't want to speak just as me, not from the Oversight Board. I'm a former Prime Minister. I've been fighting for free speech all my life. It's one of the values that I believe most in, because it's giving agency and voice to so many people. And I want policymakers to think hard about what it would actually happen if government started to interfere in what we can put on social media. I can think of many governments who would love to do that. And just look at Turkey, Russia, Belarus. perhaps Hong Kong. They would love to decide what people can post on social media. So we have to be careful not to make rules that would work in perhaps our part of the world, but not in parts of the world where they have less democratic regimes. So I'm very worried about governments wanting to decide content on social media, and I think they need to think twice.